Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to share their work with us, and it's fucking Friday again, guys. So let's get going here. First up tonight is Adam. Hey, Adam, how's it going?
Good, other than being called a basic regular.
Damn, damn. I don't recall saying basic.
Okay, basically
Here
regular.
is basic. I would never call anyone here basic. Everyone here is what's the opposite of basic? Fabulous, I guess. Everyone here is fabulous.
Fabulous would be fantastic. Okay, so yeah, so I just have two poems. They're kind of long, so just cut me off if it's getting a little long.
No, we have plenty of time tonight. We have plenty of time.
Okay, they're just numbered 19 and 20. I'll start with 19. I am the car accident lawyer as advertised, the most colorful vulture in the world. Fingerling, if I wanted you, I'd have you. I am the shit. Gronsky, flim flam, sailor, please the court, blam, BLM, utopia on Mars, fiend into hoe, MacBook, breadcrumbs, forensics. Yes, stop and believe. Amazon delivery, porch pirates, Des Moines, meh, just enough to make sense, some kind of feeling of coherency. I roughly brought chocolates. Wild. You are as fair in your dealings with others as the devil himself. That's why I love you. Wipe out MCLA Foxtrot. I am boycotting Harry's Razors. I don't know why, but I act as if. I drink Dylan beer, by the way. It's a statement piece. He's annoying, but whatevs. I will die on the right side of history. For now, I will chase ambulances. Find cotton, find God, write a book. My wife tried to poison me with antifreeze, something sweet. I almost died watching soccer in a dome when the antifreeze kicked in, but somehow survived. Now I need crazy glasses because I almost went blind from it. My heart is broken, feet on the ground. My children will read this, but not for a Barney's age. I have you on camera. I'm sorry, $1 bill, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, yours truly, would I renounce citizenship, kidding vase. Leaves in the wind, borrowed time, the immensity of it all, the cosmos, etc. Nerf guns, then a velvet pall. It's so quick. Best to live all at once, if you know what I mean. In truth, I am haunted by the number 29. I will never tell. I just realized the inverse is 92, 1992, Royal Blue, Buick Riviera. I'm telling and not telling. It's how it works. Sue me. Glorified hoe, smoke toothpaste, I mean slime chain smoke, bitch ass trick, laser tag freak, dead at 14. My name would be Lindsay, but for this outfit. A day look, boom, no, not for me. Petri dish, one side too short, I cry out in pain. I am so sad I could die. I am earthly, blink spaz, go to ho hum, box, mouth, breathe, cream. The sense of an ending, only the start. Get down to a blue or green, follow teacher. The blue is sad, fix me floor, follow slingshot. Trick or treat, add Astra ball to text. I'm not kidding. Adjust. I am the night. Watching Final Destination 2 dead sober. It's not Captain Ron, but it'll do. How's that for tragic optimism? Hall of Mirrors, something ancient, something this or that. Will you curl my hair? I'm busy. K. Manifest a life of well sparks fly. I'm ready for a show in bed. I am slowly oozing into the incinerator. Just a minute. 29% battery as I type. Howling at the moon this side of the sticks. A spade is a spade. Meme crust, crystal meth, bloom, me and boo. Here's to new beginnings, cat. I want they candy. I want they heart. Mastodon, spark flint, Nana says. A wind gust, a flame, speak easy to me, headphone session. Jewish, silence, Teppel. There but for 24/7 answered. It's a he. He's a he. Confession. I will finally believe with abandon. I will finally eat pheasant in the fields with you. He believes in the best in people. He believes that people are basically good. I am wiser than your therapist. My liberation is your prison. Your happiness is my dead weight. Our love is banal, but everything to me. An albatross for us both. Carve the initials and watch 3 decades. Please do not ever turn out the light on our love. I would die this instant for your breath, but hark, I am already a ghost. Sent from my Crown Vic. Specious little contrarian, ironic beast, you, I, fool no one. Send love, take love, mark the calendar, change the locks. I want to live for centuries, and I will. Love is in the air tonight. I wonder, in earnest, will I ever again see Paris? Mayhap pumpkin doodle, quarantine, though clavicle juncture, pot fresh, mixed up spam. Why? I thought it was done. You ruined it with the extra paint colors. It was perfect. And now it is like rotted flesh, QWERTY girls gone wild. Rum Ricky between y'all, over the fog line, hit at 1:30, getaway to goodbye horses over the hills agape. Talk to me about intersectionality, JK, Smix, mashup, girl K, Mocha look sideways. Zeitgeist? Not really, to be honest. You know nothing of the Revolutionary War. Bait sugar, blade blonde. A Basquiat, what's that? Say it again. I like the way words sound too. You're not the only one. This one's 20. October 29th, drinking low-key Astro Pinot Noir fingerling. How are you? How is X? Once you've seen some runes, you've seen them all. I'm sick of looking at plants and stones. I'm tired of my face. I am. I am not a Nazi fingerling. We're going to leave soon. I only remember my 6th birthday. Costumes are so much cheaper now. I want to write something eternal. It's too late. Many point link. Kvetch all the way. Nobody knows me. Generation Z, please don't burn me at the stake for believing what I believe, namely in God. The cycles of life. Why is it always 829? A snow day's memory. Digging up AR-15s in the backyard. Totally glam. Fine cotton. Write opus. Crawl into bed at a .30. New suit. Tags on. Opening statements in the morning. Now we go. Whoosh. The sound of water and death club boom. Covered in gosh. Dad said, let's get a pizza, and Mom said, are you crazy? He knocked her out right there in the restaurant and picked up a domestic. Then he couldn't coach anymore. He was totally destroyed. Megalithon, Mars, Trek, DN, Man, Kanza, first step, then Axon, second flashback, onesie, I will hit myself with a sword and shallow cake pop, She-Well, next question, haha. I am the hashtag and you are the peace sign. We're both tired. I'll find a dateline. I don't care about your affair. Polaroid nakeds, Paxil, a family history of drowning in antifreeze. Years past, backwash, spit in my mouth, will blank for food, K. Gift this or that. Rachel loved an image. Mezuzah? You can't. You're goy. I already ordered it from Amazon. K. My life would be more satisfying if I were forced to face actual hardship. Ugh, babe. Bust bury me, Pawnee, blah, 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 destitute plank survivor. Type, cringe, a folded page, dog ear, whiskey junction, pluralitariat, girl rat sat on my lap and revealed her total ignorance. She's not even 1/10 of my wife. She is a minx and that's it. Bar after stinking bar, I kind of fell in love with her. Can you unplug the heater? K. What produces such a person? Dogma, yell, cake batter? I don't know. This whole thing amounts to nil. It's fun for a day. Life in the real world is better. The trenches, scream Danzig, worship whistle who. Peace to all. Man search for meaning. Moby Dick, Queequeg, Black Market, Sharpshooter, Portage, Black Sig, Semper Fi, Gale by. Mine is the same. Name a soup for him. Sup, minestrone. That's taken. K. Can we do our nails? You're me, not yet. I am a peacemaker, scenic trombone. You have to go like this. Fingerling. I care for the plants and animals and the people. That's really cool. I am a detective, says Crow, this motive. The photos, love you, carved jade, a gift, fingerling, a gift. I am blackout, sweet chariot, never published, discreet though idle. One touch slave, Randy Schwing. The first snow, some psycho broad, the Zoom hearing, shatter the ceiling in custody, rant an interpreter case with a drawn out plea and PD green behind the ears, never read the Magic Mountain, Hair Albin 69, shovel, demented doorstop, lark. Mrs. Thompson running through a screen door and down the street. Later fodder for many a Jewish tale, spark destiny flub. I'm doing something. I am magic. I am dark magic cringe. Can you reply to her email? There is no email. You mean you didn't receive one? No, I mean there is no such thing. Holy shit. I mean it. There is no such thing as internet. Thumbprint on your back. Unfollow me. Delete my blanks. Fingerling. I am actually with you. I get it. We get it. Fight the night. Shh, step ladder. Murder scene and a crying babe. Much love. I should kick down the door to scare my wife. Guns a-blazing, a 38 special into the ceiling, flying carpet, munch press, acquitted. I'm sleeping, by the way, tender email so-and-so. There is no such thing as a quasi-free lunch, treehouse, monster, cock and bull, tabletop tennis, Janine carved away, part of my back, and it's hard to describe. She is a misandrous cunt. What you think female nature is also not disgusting, sugar plum? Get up and get after it. Read a book, dine in, at least palm the wind, spray the moon, look for code, go back again. Pleased to meet you, Phantom Limb. Want me to get the judge? She's spiritually Stalin youth, spiked hair, Cornell grad, March of Dimes. Been to Aix-en-Provence? Me neither. Servants this and that, crumble cookies, whatever. I got some shrooms, shriek. Meet me behind the courthouse, bright, not bleak. Axon body cam tactics, mute you hot? Nah, semiotics, blue blush, circle jerk, Ralph in a bag. Mop the floor with them? Who? Them. Points to shill government type cast rant figures and tobacco. Oh, got it, 69. What's the speed limit? 129. Crisscross puzzle manzo type freak. It all works out to a farthing. OMG. This is 20 time nigh tup row from species mine, a cavort Richard Cabot reference, underwater thong shot faggot. Make it long and longer. Splant a spliff solid, not mine to judge. My husband is out back with head lice. The kids locked him out. Fuck him. Sweet Dane like dandelion down plunk row. Whatevs and the like. My subway card got lost. Stamp policy change follow back urchin. Marcy gave 10 grand to Bernie. LOL. Like it made a diff. Smash Caroline Yag cruiser wooden lantern twist jockey who. There. Down pat like Tolstoy Bonaparte. Seen Pierre Bear window conflate or constrict. I need not precision and order gauntlet toothpick percentage. I read the polls. I know the score. I am actually precision oriented. I know English, mister, or whatever the fuck you is. He knows not what he did. Asian voice. Crisp 100. Schlub Christian breed necklace or highwayman. Coach road IKEA. Return to norms. Shot clock girl in the wallet says, I want a ranch and the Arby sauce mixed and sealed. No can do. Turned abominable featherweight. Lose some pounds, then talk to me, boo. Fi, says the minx, but she still buys a president sets table out. For you. Jenna, a fat male who did the fashionable 180 of the Times, built a Mario Kart and died in it. It's impossible to explain Clean Turkey. Don't try. Quad screen Goldeneye revived her spirit of conjuring. Sure, but relent, ho. She's fine and gone and not turning back to the hilt classic comedy, catch up Indian writers to a man, capital J, Smee embargo fingerling. I love you so much, blah blah blah, I don't know. Gravaman Crater Gorge, to the Edgeton Wake, it's mine, Maine, November 29th. He is resin, get it drunken entendre, grief-stricken limb. You have to put it in the work to read. You have to put in the work to read me. You have to be willing to go all the way. The light refracts on the eggshell stucco tantrum. I'd fight the lot of you. I mean it. I'd blaze Kimber 1911 in a plume. Damn right dirty. I'd homicide justified teardrop. Hey. Hey, Percival. Are you a he, she, or a he, she? This be what we doing tonight. Music is my life. Great. You got it. Will you give me a hug? Will you check on me? Swear to God, I hope you have a fabulous Tuesday. Okay, good night. Slipper Sounds Mossberg. It's open enough. Murder for hire. Cash big singe bag Fuddrucker. SS, of course. He's learnt and contrite, like a little weasel. The tiniest bit. Stand at attention, soldier. Shoes tied, legs spread, blam. Little wand of baked nuts. Who cares, stupid? Petrified Solace Duolingo, an old lawyer. Dies in harness. Congrats, by the way. I'm looking for that IRS thing. The Augusta rule. Wine drunk. Kicked back to Enron. Esquire. I myself am a pass-through entity. The Ready Zone Twink. Esprit Brancock. Keds. The shoes. Hi. Enigmatic. My lance penetrate. The circle for bubbles on my head. 69. LOL. Hey, not funny. Lydia Lace. Archipelago. Broomstick squirrel. What's your Arby's order? Not telling. Paint the night. You've heard all this before. Here's that cold brew for you. Here's that plea petition. Sign right here. Who's the protected party? Some massive bitch. I'll be back, babe, only as plankton. Will strong arm the fish fry. Stringer, stronger, stranger. Easy as pie. Black, a hurl. Vomit, Esquire. 311, then some concert bells. Swifties, Black Knight, Tantric Tantrum. I am white and belittled. Smar Bar, Cancun Friendlies. Did you hear that, fingerling? Go ahead with your rage scene like it's 2020 all over. Honestly, I'm a little shaky. You know I'm vulnerable. Did you get my voice memos? I actually remember them vividly. I'm sorry, I was bitter. If I could go back, you know what? Fuck you. I regret nothing. Hinderocker Smex Betty Ultra. Forge Reese's them. Talmatura. Used furniture. I am everyone I've ever met. I don't even have my own laugh. I adopt the laugh of the person I am with in the moment. Dead serious. I'm a chameleon. So sad. Pedo Thor said, it's amazing how breasts grow out of a teenager. We gave him a Kirby. See American History X. We didn't know what to expect, but his jaw was all mangly and his teeth were all down in the apron of the curb. Tough shit for him. Everything is exhibitionist or voyeur. It's like 69 or a yin yang thing, purple desktop. It's okay. You're online and I'm not. I will carry this weight. I will be your one. I will live for centuries. Someone said the American Confucius Centers are all just Chinese spy fronts. I don't know. These last few months have been the weirdest of my life. It's almost Black Friday. Christmas music melting into the holidays. I would go to war. The black gang members with dyed blonde hair and Meteor Man. Where are they? I am going insane. I can run a mile in 5 minutes flat. I would crush a celebrity roast. You get me. You got me from the jump. I'll always pay the taxes even though I don't like how they spend the money like that. Pathetic Verizon, another doorstep commercial. I can hear my loved one snoring fingerling. Do you know that I would literally swim the channel for you? Are you okay? I am. Please stop. Blue plugs, a dog distant. The first rays of the sun. You are alive. It is morning. God bless life. A broken fingernail on the floor. A cardboard of a pizza, shell casings, meth remnants, and a broken down door. Mini 14 propped against the nightstand. The smell of glass and copper and lost old jeans. Airbnb, what have you. Fuck that shit. I'll defend you to the hilt. Yours truly, Esquire. One last thing. What's that, babe? Just that I may be Norwegian and square-headed and whatever, but I can twerk like the devil himself. Chalk outline, a floating kidney, all the book bindings, 6 feet. I can feel it. But for now, life. Sweet Baby James, Copperline Fandango, Chimichurri, Spelling, A Murder of Crows. I highly recommend the biography of Paul Erdos. Incredible. My appetite calls for Jack's Pizza and a Shark Tank. Fuck you, Blitz Bar, Watch Party, Strangle, a gaggle of whatevers. I'll breach tomorrow. Hate Ball, Why Am I Alive? Chances are good. Tweed Jacket, negligently suicidal. So there. Diamond Dust, Keratin, Melanin, ... So what? Under pressure, superstar. We're live from Minneapolis. Without a leader. Describe me. It was the wife who killed him. I'd rather be carried by 6 than judged by 12. Wait, the other way around. Are we in privity? Explain the doctrine. Rule 26F. Fuck off. We'll never settle. Bullshit. Push the envelope. Little secret. Better ingredients. Better pizza. Pussy flap warble. But can you croon? Look at the Vista. Hulu for a year. $12.99. Small of the bag. Zing. I have no socks left. I'll borrow you one. You mean lend? Huh? Oh yeah. LOL. Notes. Done. Dine and ditch. See you at Perkins. ABC. Warp Time. Re-education camps. Lowercase Italian masters. Don Juan this or that mentality, but with a bruised ego. 2020. The year. Not hindsight. Fingerling. Burned and upturned dumpsters in the no man's land in Portland, some kind of autonomous dictatorial hell zone run by mall rats and dwindling professors on the 10-year lamb from decency with their dicks turned up in their stomachs and they ain't ever shot a fitty cal, spiked blue hair, wannabe flake skin, Starbucks pride, hate and stardust, clippings, a dinner jacket for his honor, and prison sweat, turntable, finite death. Target bag Picasso, I wore it best. I remember everything until I don't. Write my name on the wall in the Peacock Lounge in Savannah. Not me, the other Adam Johnson. You could write it and I could watch. You think this is ad hoc? Just about everything in this world takes two. Even the low carb menu, boo. That's it then. Are you ready? I ain't, nor never would I be, for dust settles calm. Turn right. Advice. Don't let them crush you. Starlight Fingerling, remember from your youth the feeling of wonder. I love you all, every last one. Cheer up. I am forever. Promise. Now do me a favor. Yes, you. Go over to the window, even if it be the bars of a prison. Lo, hark, look skyward. Yes, up here. A little to the right and onward, deep into the black void of 2 a.m. with work on the morrow. Away from your chamber, away from everything. Do you see me? That's it.
Holy shit, Adam. Holy shit. So I I've I've already said at length before how much I love the new style that you've been playing with. And I've listening to you speak, listening to you read rather, I finally realized what it feels like to read one of the poems in your new like more stream of consciousness style. And it's like the experience of being psychic, or how it must feel to be psychic, right? Because it's like you're not only, it's like being psychic and walking through a crowded mall or something, where like you wouldn't only be hearing your own stream of consciousness, but you're also hearing like the stream of consciousness of dozens of other human beings at once. And it's almost like you're holding up a mic to a bunch of different minds, and just like you're with them for a second. You get this like little moment of thought that's sometimes banal, sometimes profound, sometimes like deeply funny. And then you scurry away and you're in somebody else's head hearing their stream of consciousness, like inside their mind for a moment. And it's just like this cascade where the voices start to like speak over each other. And it's really fucking effective. And there are so many individual moments here. I've put a bunch of them in the chat while you were reading, but there are so many great individual lines. And I shit, I might as well read off a couple of them. Like I love how you like I love how you used the like I'd rather be carried by 6 than judged by 12 cliche, and then you reverse it. You're like, wait, no, the other way around. Because honestly, like that's, I think, when you interrogate that for a minute, you're like, when you really think about that, it's like, no, actually, I'd rather have my shot with the justice system than just be fucking dead. I love the I myself am a pass-through entity. I love when you like use the use legal terminology in like a punning way, and in a like in like a way that seems a little crass, right? And pleased to meet you, Phantom Limb is another great line. I love the costumes are so much cheaper now moment too, because something you do in a lot of your poetry, you're really I mean, you and I are of the same generation, right? And you have a real sense for like 90s nostalgia. And I remember
We're
I
both
like
Mytho
this,
America followers.
huh?
That's why we're both Mytho America followers.
Yes, yes, because it's that weird like sense of like loss of our lost childhood, right? But I love the costumes are so much cheaper now thing, because so at this moment in history, like everything feels so fucking expensive. But I remember being a kid and Halloween costumes felt like they were the most expensive fucking thing in the world. So that's a nice little reversal of expectations there. And of course, also like the other meaning of that, which is, that it's at this moment in history, it's just so much easier to concoct a persona and take on a whole nother life, right? Like to put on, like we're constantly putting on and taking off costumes thanks to social media and thanks to the internet and so on. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about this, Adam. Like every little stanza here is just so beautifully dense. And like I said, it's this wonderful, like, feeling of like this like a chorus in the most traditional sense, right? Like that people talk about like the chorus in like classical literature and stuff. And usually the chorus is all like saying the same thing at the same time, right? But this is like being in the actual chorus of human experience, where everyone is actually tuned to a different frequency. and it's just washing over you until it becomes this kind of profound white noise. It's beautiful shit, Adam. Sorry to sorry to ramble. Thanks, man.
It's all very much appreciated. Thanks for letting me read.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. Um, and up next is John, Johnny Hollywood. Do you actually want to read tonight, John, or have we all
Yeah,
been
no, I'll read.
suckered by
I'll read.
remote? Okay.
Yeah. Since y'all want me to read, I'll read. So here's something I wrote called Warriors in the Mist. The island of Gant, a single mountain that lifts its peak a mile above the storm-wracked Northeast Sea, is a land famous for wizards. From the towns in its high valleys and the ports on its dark, narrow bays, many a Gantishman has gone forth to serve the lords of the archipelago in their cities as wizard or mage, or looking for adventure, to wander working magic from isle to isle of all Earth's sea. Of these, some say the greatest, and surely the greatest voyager, was the man called Sparrowhawk, who in his day became both Dragon Lord and Archmage. His life is told of in the Deed of Ged, and in many songs, but this is a tale of the time before his fame, before the songs were made. I don't know why there's so much hate in the comments right now. That's weird. I spent all week working on this, but whatever. He was born in a lonely village called Ten Alders, high on the mountain at the head of the North Wind Vale. Below the village, the pastures and plowlands of the vale slope downward, level below level towards the sea, and other towns lie on the bends of the river Art. Above the village, only forest rises, ridge behind ridge to the stone and snow of the heights. The name he bore as a child, Dunny, was given to him by his mother, and that and his life were all she could give him, for she died before he was but a year old. His father, the bronzesmith of the village, was a grim, unspeaking man, and since Dunny's 6 brothers were older than he by many years, and went one by one from home to farm the land, or sail the sea, or work as smith in other towns of the northward vale, there was no one to bring the child up in tenderness. He grew wild, a thriving weed, a tall, quick boy, loud and proud and full of temper. With the few other children of the village, he herded goats on the steep meadows above the river springs. And when he was strong enough to push and pull the long bellow sleeves, his father made him work as smith's boy, at a high cost in blows and whippings. There was not much work to be got out of Dunny. He was always off and away, roaming deep in the forest, swimming in the pools of the river Ar, and like the Gantish rivers runs very quick and cold, or whatever, or climbing by cliff and scarp to the heights above the forest, from which he could see the broad northern ocean where, past Perigal, no islands are. A sister of his dead mother lived in the village. She has done what was needful for him as a baby, but she had business of her own, and once he could look after himself at all, she paid no more heed to him. But one day, when the boy was 7 years old, untaught and unknowing, and knowing nothing of the arts and powers that are in the world, he heard his aunt crying out words to a goat, which had jumped up onto the thatch of a hut and would not come down. But it came jumping when she cried a certain rhyme to it. Next day, herding the long-haired goats on the meadows of Highfall, Dunny shouted to them the words he had heard, not knowing their use or meaning, or what kind of words they were. Nath, Herth, Malk, Man, Hoilcan, Mirthan. He yelled the rhyme aloud, and the goats came to him. They came very quickly, all of them together, not making any sound. They looked at him out of the dark slot in their yellow eyes. Dunny laughed and shouted it out again, the rhyme that gave him power over the goats. They came closer, crowding and pushing round him. All at once he felt afraid of their thick, rigid horns and their strange eyes and their strange silence. He tried to get free of them and to run away. The goats ran with him, keeping in a knot around him. And so they came charging down into the village at last. All the goats going huddled together as if a rope were pulled tight round them, and the boy in the midst of them weeping and bellowing. Villagers ran from their houses to swear at the goats and laugh at the boy. Among them came the boy's aunt, who did not laugh. She said a word to the goats, and the beast began to bleat and browse and wander, freed from the spell. Come with me, she said to Dunny. She took him into her hut, where she lived alone. She let no child enter there usually, and the children feared the place. It was low and dusky, windowless, fragrant with herbs that hung drying from the cross pole of the roof. Mint and mullein thyme, yarrow and rushwash, and paramal, kingsfoil, clovenfoot, tansy and bay. There his aunt sat cross-legged by the fire pit, and looking sidelong at the boy through the tangles of her black hair, she asked him what he had said to the goats, and if he knew what the rhyme was. When she found that he knew nothing, and yet had spellbound the goats to come to him and follow him, then she saw that he must have in him the makings of power.
Go on.
As
I feel like it's not over yet, John. I feel like I don't think that's the end of the story.
all right. As her sister's son, he had been nothing to her, but now she looked at him with a new eye. She praised him and told him she might teach him rhymes he would like better, such as the word that makes a snail look out of its shell, or the name that calls a falcon down from the sky. A, teach me that name, he said, being clear over the fright the goats had given him, and puffed up with her praise of his cleverness. The witch said to him, you will not ever tell that word to the other children if I teach it to you. I promise. She smiled at his ready ignorance. Well and good, but I will bind your promise. Your tongue will be stilled until I choose to unbind it. And even then, though you can speak, you will not be able to speak the word I teach you where another person can hear it. You must keep the secrets of our craft. Good, said the boy, for he had no wish to tell his secret to his playmates, liking to know and do what they knew not and could not. He sat still while his aunt bound back her uncombed hair and knotted the belt of her dress, and again sat cross-legged, throwing handfuls of leaves into the fire pit, so that a smoke spread.
Okay, John. Okay. You've suffered enough. Halfway through your reading, Jan sent me a message, and he was like, "Stop him!" And I said, "No, he must suffer more." The only thing that I'm gonna say, I haven't read or see or anything. The only thing that I ever think of, when anyone discusses this book or the series of books, the Earth series, is
I guess
how Miyazaki's son adapted the film for Studio Ghibli, and Miyazaki like went in to the screening to watch it, and when he came out, well, actually, I'll read from the Wikipedia page. During a private screening prior to the film's release, Goro, the younger Miyazaki, his father, Hayao, how do you pronounce the elder Miyazaki, Rudy?
Hideo Kojima.
Hayao Jan.
I think it's Hayao Miyazaki.
Hayao was asked what he thought of the film. He said, I was looking at my kid. He's not an adult yet. That is all. Can you imagine your dad sitting down, your dad who's a famous filmmaker, sitting down to watch your film that you made for his production company, and then the press ask him about it, and he doesn't even say no comment. He's just like, yeah, my kid sucks. Well, and anyway, I have I don't know. I have nothing else to say, John. I have nothing else to say. That was
Don,
yes.
I just want to say that that was a really inspiring story, and I like that more fantasy authors like you are depicting depicting situations with such realism. I think we need more realism in fantasy, and that's something that I feel that you did really well with, like, you painted a real picture of the village, like the pigs and like the other stuff like that. So like I think like that sense of place is very missing from a lot of modern
That's the
fantasy.
play. I don't know, Rudy. I completely disagree with you. I know that I'm always supportive here, but that kind of sucked. No, I mean, the prose is so stilted. It's like young adult fiction level of prose, right? It's so
Oh,
stilted, and
but
like
it's
everyone
painting an
speaks in
image
these
in your
like
mind.
brief declarative sentences that are like plot sentences. Like, I don't know. It's stilted.
I, I,
It's kind of
It's not. I
John.
mean,
Bring something better next.
it's the first. You have to get it going. I can't get caught up in the weeds discussing. I need to get this
I
plot
want
going.
to feel your reality. Tolkien managed to write fantasy fiction that had a propulsive plot and yet
Mm.
was
Let me
rich
let
on the
you.
level of prose. That was like that wasn't just like this was just it was so prosaic in the worst sense of the term, which is to say that it's like here's a sentence, it's strictly descriptive. It either only provides a very brief description of exactly what the reader needs to know to move the plot forward, or it's just the roughest, plainest sketch of the world. I don't know. I don't know, John. I'm usually an encouraging guy, but I can't get behind this.
It's minimal. Let me let. All right. If we're,
It's not Hemingway, though.
it's not Hemingway, but it's
Oh,
more. Let me. All right. First off, let me let you in on a little secret about Tolkien. Okay, Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings.
Uh-huh.
I'll
uh-huh.
never finish that shit.
He
Okay.
didn't. No, he could, which is wonderful. He had a whole universe there, and he could not in an entire lifetime communicate all
Yeah,
that
but
he had created.
no one's finished reading it either.
No, fuck it. I haven't. I didn't read the fucking Silmarillion. What am I? Am I not that autistic?
But what I'm working on here, it gets you right into the world. It doesn't waste time with maximalist bullshit. It's just we know it's Dunny. That's all you need to know. We're straight into it. Boy from a village. Okay, we don't need any of this Tom Bombadil bullshit. Who
Tom
just
Bombadil is one of the best. Don't get me started on Peter Jackson and what he did. Tom Bombadil and the Scouring of the Shire are like two of the best parts of the Lord of the Rings. And he was so like centrally focused on having a propulsive plot of getting from like tedious battle scene to tedious battle scene that he cut the heart and soul out of those books. Okay. All right, John, we've done this enough.
that
We have to.
that was the best filibuster since John Thurman read the phone book or whatever.
All right, John. All right, John. Thank you, man. That was fun. I actually did enjoy arguing about fantasy fiction, even though Josh is of course, Josh is up next. I'm sorry, Josh. We keep doing this to you, man. We keep doing this to you. I can understand why Josh is like so bitter because he is always on the losing end of a moment like this. Whenever somebody comes and brings let's say engages in performance art, Josh is always the loser. Josh, are you back? Are you with us? Maybe it actually gave him time to use the bathroom or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, no. Sorry, I thought you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I've learned in the recent
Sorry.
the past 2 weeks to just let everything wash over me,
Oh,
William.
that's beautiful, Josh. You've become Zen. We're looking at
Yes.
like more Buddhist, Josh.
That's right. And I guess I'm gonna just continue what I started 2 weeks ago, not on Twitter here. What I started 2 weeks ago here with the auto portrait project I'm working on. I read auto portrait 1.1 and 1.2 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna read 1.3 and 1.4. So I will just start. I read 1.3 at God Pussy actually on Sunday, which was that reading was real vibe, which William can attest to, but not mine in particular, just the overall thing. But yeah, auto portrait 1.3. I had a happy childhood in a lot of ways. Invariably, I fall for lesbians. Almost every meal I eat is takeout. After I read a book of haiku, I start thinking in haiku for an unspecified period of time. I'm more easily able to put topspin on my backhand than my forehand. Give me a hill, any hill, and I'll die on it. When she had scattered diatomaceous earth all over her apartment to kill the bugs she claimed were infesting it, I should have realized she was schizophrenic. On my last day at work as a civil servant for the province of Ontario, I was summarily fired for things I'd posted to Twitter the previous weekend. Namely, I'd been critical of the Vice President of Human Resources, or upper management called the department People and Culture. I never had a bar mitzvah. Mikhail Tal's chess strategy taught me something important about opponents. They're likely just as nervous as you are. I found out a few weeks ago that my dad, who I've never met, works for the same telecommunications company as my uncle. My weight fluctuates between 131 pounds and 182 pounds. I haven't ridiculed astrology as much as I'd like to. Doing so would limit my success with women too much. I was enthusiastic about calling my high school punk band Box Cutter Takeover, a reference to the September 11th terrorist attacks, but our drummer wouldn't play under the name, so I relented. The name had been my then best friend Mark's idea. After I was toilet trained, I still refused to wipe my own ass. When the time came, I would yell, "Wipe my bum," to anyone within earshot. I chew with my mouth open and yet cover my mouth when I laugh or yawn. I could be wrong. I had a therapist a couple years ago. His name was Mitch, which was a problem. We lasted 3 sessions and it ended with the feeling wheel. Sometimes I toy with the idea of getting ironically muscular. Overtly political art bores me, unless it's the work of Eric Maria Remarque. I told a gay man no homo after we made out at a bar in Parkdale. I doubt I ever knew how to do long division.
I don't know.
What I don't know absolutely does hurt me. I'd take Gary Newman's first 4 albums over David Bowie's entire discography. I'm reluctant to wear black leather shoes with black pants. I prefer brown leather, which also complements blue jeans better. I stopped believing in God when I was 16. I get stage fright and can't piss if somebody is waiting behind me to use the urinal next, so I usually just wait for a stall to free up. On a beach in Cuba last year, I met an acquaintance of David Hommel, the translator of Danny Laferriere, one of the only Canadian writers I admire. Using her hair scrunchies, my aunt would hog tie me when I was little. Sharing a spoon of ice cream or soup with a date viscerally disgusts me. It's hard or impossible to gauge. It's impossible to gauge or estimate the ratio of saliva to food that's being shared. I attended 3 different elementary schools and 1 high school. The plot of one of my most memorable dreams. I come home to discover a random nonverbal Samoan family has moved into my basement apartment. That is the dream. Another dream. I wake up in a hospital bed. I'm 70 and haven't done anything I set out to do. Unemployed and in my early 20s, I lived with my mom, who wouldn't let me have girls stay overnight. Around this time, I got a hand job in an alleyway. "I'm not going to fuck you in an alleyway," Ariel told me matter-of-factly before undoing my fly. I used to pretend to be a car every time my mom would push me around in the shopping cart at the grocery store. My eyes were the turn signals. I'd blink my left eye when she turned the cart left, and I'd blink my right eye when she turned the cart right. A customer noticed and asked my mom if I was quote-unquote okay, which is how she found out. I didn't develop any taste in music until grade 7. For whatever reason, music didn't interest me before that point. Not once have I purchased an avocado. Despite my stinginess, I didn't mind sharing my drugs. Doing drugs with another person meant I could offer them the first line to snort. That way, if the drugs were laced with anything, I'd find out before trying myself. Most of my opinions are actually moral and correct. I just express them immorally and incorrectly. I'm not allowed to operate heavy machinery. I've had a celebrity crush on Alexis Bledel for literally 20 years. My first crush grew up to be a professional wrestler. She fights professionally under the name Xandra Bale. She may or may not be a lesbian. Bathrooms with the light switch located outside of the bathroom frighten me. If you were taking a shower in such a bathroom and an assailant broke into your apartment, they could turn out the light before attacking and you'd be left naked in the dark, perfectly defenseless. A dude I thought was cool in high school had a facial tic. For a week, I maintained a facial tic. The pro-Palestine phrase "from the river to the sea," which is considered hate speech in Germany, sounds like the title of a Hemingway novel to me. I'm indifferent to empanadas. Fat women love me, possibly because they think they have a chance. They think I'm cute, but not too cute for them, which makes me feel like there's something wrong with me. There is something wrong with me. Auto portrait 1.4. I'm taking some time off social media. I need some inspiration. I'm reading Working in the Bathtub, Conversations with the Immortal Danny Leferrier by Adam Leith Golner, in which Leferrier tells Golner, at the start, I believed that I was writing my books, that my books were coming from me, but in time I ended up realizing that I myself came from my books. We see things, they belong to us. We put them in books and find ourselves within those things as a narrator, and then we belong to those things as a narrator. Those two moments are the grand lesson of literature. I owe a remaining balance of $71.90 toward my student loans. It is my only debt. Smell is our strongest sense. It's too bad then that I breathe through my mouth 95% of the time. I don't know what comes after a quadrillion. Jamie was my first best friend. His parents would take us to Blue Jays and Raptors games. The second and final time I had anal sex, she shat on my dick. If I meet a Joy Division fan, I'll tell them that Joy Division recorded some pretty good New Order demos. I see no reason to replace the batteries in my watches. They're accessories. I check the time on my phone. Within the first 13 years of my life, I had lived in a large detached house with a pool and visited a welfare office. I hold on to old cards and sometimes even envelopes that have been sent to me so I don't forget when people cared. My lifelong fear of bees must stem from my being stung twice in two very unlucky spots early on, once on my eyelid and once under a fingernail. Charcuterie boards are wasted on me. I'll get around to it. All year round, I blast the AC when I sleep. Something I loved about the worldwide pandemic that killed at least 3 million people globally was the feeling that time had stopped, and with it, the pressure to deal with responsibilities and tasks, complete absolution. Something I did not love about the pandemic that killed at least 3 million people globally was that it claimed the lives of my great-grandparents who, like the other tens of thousands of people living in long-term care facilities at the time, were abandoned by the Ontario government. My mom cuts my hair. She's a hairstylist by trade. I don't place mobile orders and only download the most essential apps. I once dated a girl who got very excited about Christmas decorations. Large baubles in particular. Occasionally, I'll sniff the glue between the pages of a book, no matter how whimsical or performative it may come across. I flinch. I'm toggling between despair. If I do end up at a urinal and someone comes up behind me before I can start peeing, I'll go through all the motions as if I'm peeing, including shaking off after what I think is a reasonable period of time, then go to the sink, wash my hands, leave the bathroom, and wait for anyone who saw me to finish before going back in and trying again. Two people I'll never forgive, but for two very different reasons. My estranged Aunt Luann and the Toronto Police Service Detective Constable Dorna Kennedy. The former for reappearing beside my mom's ex-husband in the middle of their high-conflict divorce at the Supreme Court of Canada, and the latter for pressing charges against me because of what an undiagnosed schizophrenic woman said. My body count is 19. 4 of them, or approximately 21%, were one-night stands. The auto portraits I'm writing wouldn't exist without the late French writer, photographer, and painter Ed Levay, who did it first. Gatekeepers are a good thing, I think. Quality control is important. I loathe when so-called progressive language is weaponized in bad faith, especially against me. I used to boast on dating apps that my apartment had central air conditioning. Turpitude is the most recent word I learned. It's amazing how much racist and homophobic stuff I said on the playground in Thornhill, Ontario. The Philidor defense is my preferred response to the King's Pawn opening after white plays knight to f3 on the second move. I play it because chess players tend to underestimate it. Canadian winters take a serious toll on my mental health, but what doesn't? Recently, I decided to watch online videos that provide minute-by-minute analysis of the events leading up to plane crashes to get over my fear of flying, thinking that if I could better understand how these tragedies unfold, I'd be less afraid. I know way more about aviation than before, and I continue to binge hours of these videos weekly, but I'm still scared. Option paralysis permeates my existence. The kids in 3rd grade called me Dumbo because of my big ears. When my mom finds out, she shows me Will Smith as an example of how big ears can be cool. Also in the third grade, I chose to do my big animal project on the giant squid, which I was obsessed with. I grossly exaggerated the giant squid's ability to kill whales. Giant squid cannot kill whales. I'm well liked by some metrics. I have a 5-star rating on Uber. I appreciate Guns N' Roses a lot more now that I know Slash's original lyrics to Paradise City were "Take me down to Paradise City where the girls are fat and they got big titties." I strongly maintain that Starbucks should be 19 plus. 15 years ago, I was in my ska phase. My screen time is down 69% from last week. Spite is among my strongest motivators. I'm always trying to remember. All right, it's done.
Josh, I love these. I love these so much. This is just like the perfect expression of like your style. And I know I said that last time, but I'm reiterating it this time. Also, Stall Gang represent. I have never this is only tangentially related to what you read, but I have never in my life used a urinal, not once. They should not exist. I think there's something perverse about people who would prefer to use them. I think there's something inherently sick about them. Anyway, as far as I love these. I love the way that you've really made the most of the structure. I love the dream one, the two dreams. Each of those dreams is great individually, but juxtaposed against each other, it's so fucking perfect because the first one is absolutely inscrutable to the point that it's hilarious, right? The like nonverbal Samoan family. There's no you like I would love to see someone offer an interpretation that lends real profound meaning to that. But then the second one is like as a statement of a profound anxiety that every living human being shares. And I love the fact that just by juxtaposing those two very simple statements against each other, you really get at like what dreams are, right? At what they mean to us, in that most of them are just absolutely incoherent, like mental trash, just detritus floating around in our subconscious mind. But then a small percentage of them are just deeply profound to us. And in some ways, that's almost a pretty apt description of what you're doing here, right? You're kind of digging through the detritus of your life and you're finding a whole bunch of moments that are pretty banal and pretty trivial, if hilarious. And then sprinkled throughout are these moments of real deep, like emotional insight, and that reveals something profound about you. It's just, it's wonderful, Josh. I love these. Anyway, thanks, man.
Thanks, William. Yeah, it's been a real distraction. I've kind of just been compulsively doing it. I don't want to know how many thousands of words it is, but these ones weren't, I felt, the strongest, but I'm kind of just reading them in order. And I think Bram at Gobpile probably just wants me to finish the book rather than start a new thing. But thank you for
When is that book coming out, Josh? I thought it was 2023.
it's just waiting on the travelogue about my reading in New York, which is one of the longer things I've written. And like that's I shouldn't say anything about order or whatever, but it's hinging on that, and it's just not where I want it to be. So
I
it's kind of
see.
like, and that's it. Like everything else is basically like edited from my end, edited and ready. But yeah, but
I
instead,
love that so many things were being hung up by that one piece that you're working on. The Last Estate ended before you ever
yes,
finished it. All right, Josh. That was great shit, man. Yeah, good stuff as usual. And I'm glad to see that you've become Zen and that you have a more healthy approach to life that I'm sure will last for years to come. All
yeah.
right.
It's not like I retweeted Red Scare about the Israeli conflict last night or anything. So yeah,
No. I have not seen you fighting with someone on the internet for over 24 hours. So that's a beautiful thing. Anyway, Cletus is up next.
What's up, y'all? Hey. So I'm gonna be reading some poems. Yeah. All right, let's see here. All right, this first one is called Empty Love Poem. I'm a wounded robin in a shoebox. You're the kid who found me on the roadside. One day. This one's called Sex Dungeon Love Poem. A whip hangs above, handcuffs on the doorknob. Love how you hate me correctly at specified times. This one's called Still Alive. I'm dying of something inexorable. The doctor says death is a kind of fuckboy. And are you a stupid slut, he asks. Thankful for chastity lately. I'm still alive. This one's called Performative Cannibalism. After the apocalypse, you'll find me, a cannibal, drooling down.
Oh man,
Man.
sorry, man, you just cut out for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Can you start the
Can you hear
cannibal
me now?
poem over? You were just at the beginning of that one.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
All right, this is Performative Cannibalism. After the apocalypse, you'll find me, a cannibal, drooling down the roadside, wearing intestines, my face skin volcanic from radiation. A man and his son pass like black cats across my path, too far to skewer but near enough to smell. I haven't stopped writing poetry. I pray to blood gods for guidance. I can't sleep. I'm starving. The moon turns a blind eye. I've never actually eaten anyone. The intestines are from roadkill, already dead. I just want a good excuse to feel monstrous, a reason to self-flagellate that's not chronic masturbation. I need some time alone. So, I've started bartending school. This is about that. This is called Hotel Bartender. Long day serving moods. She ordered horny and sad. I make a mean philanthropic guilt. Men here are secretly cryptids. What adorable yeti, they say. No, I don't swing that way. Somewhere my inner child is fine. He's learning how to shoot. Visit a guest's room and you're null. Unprofessional spirit meld. Better ways to quit include riding a horse through a forest fire. This one's called, and so these were from the manuscript I'm working on, the phallic symbols manuscript. This one's called Moby Dick. It's inspired by Graham Irvin's Shirt That Cures Depression poem in Livermush. So this is Moby Dick. A whale's penis is 8 to 10 feet long. Whalers in the 19th century would skin it and make clothes. The fabric was said to be soft, stretchy, and water resistant. Hey man, nice shirt. Thanks, it's penis. Anyway, my white whale is a shirt that cures depression. And that's all from me. Thanks you guys for listening.
Cletus, that was phenomenal as usual, man. I don't know, I fucking love all of these. I love the zombie poem. I love the atmosphere you set in that poem. And I love the meticulous way you set the atmosphere, like the careful description of your persona in the poem, and like the like viscera, like the like the detail, the visceral detail of just the viscera that you deck yourself out in. And then it takes such an astute psychological twist at the end. I love the I just want a good excuse to feel monstrous moment. And then the whole thing becomes this kind of like psychological character study, or this take on a very specific mood that I think is very universally relatable. I think my single fucking favorite line from the pieces that you read tonight, though, was the "hate me correctly" line. That is just I don't, it was like hate me correctly and at like a specific designated time or whatever. It's just such a perfectly astute, like it's not just because it's not just an appraisal of sadomasochism, right? Like within the context of the poem, it's presented as that, but it says something, I think, deep, astute and deeper about how human relationships function, and that it's not a strictly uncomplicated case of being loved or being hated. Anyway, these your shit's always phenomenal, man. And these poems are no exception. So thank you for reading.
Thanks a lot, you guys. Thanks a lot, William, as always. And thank you, people in the comments.
Yeah, thank you, man. And up next is in the chat, it says Edgy Paula, or in the list, it says Edgy Paula Dean. I wonder who that could possibly be. Could that be Rudy?
Yeah, I'm gonna read a recipe.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, huh. Okay, so this was inspired by Willie Nelson's song Nightlife. Yeah. It's called Whitesburg, Arkansas, or You Are a Conjurer of Lost Causes Making Just Desserts for Visiting Yankees. Recipe for disaster. Yield. One wild night in a sundown town. Ingredients. One cause gone so far gone as to not be lost, but found actually in your heart of hearts. 21 grams of the blackest soul essence, yours. 3 tablespoons worth of juicy racial animus. 1.5 tablespoons of grief tears. 3 to 5 pieces of strange fruit picked ripe from the tall poplar tree in the center of town. Several moth-eaten bed sheets. 1 pound of dust taken from graves in or around Whitesburg, dated 1861 through 1865. 2 or 3 gaggles of Yankees, shot full of northern aggression and adventurism, seeking you, the great witch of the South. 1 copy of the elusive Negro motorist red book, a quote-unquote modern Malleus Maleficarum masquerading as nigger empowerment, your words, torn to shreds. Preparation. Before the year of our Lord 1956. Step 1. Bake in southern heat for 2 or 3 decades, mum and mummifying. Step 2. Stew in your own juices, marinating thoroughly in the gangrenous suffering of antebellum battlefields, where countrymen, horses, and king cotton were hewn down by cold northern skies. Step 3. Come the dreary post-war time, place yourself over a fire until boiling, sear until hatred makes fond, deglaze using a stock of own blood until exsanguinated, expired. Step 4. Be swept up by reanimation, joining undeath's gray ranks as the formerly gray blossoms green or fades yellow, swept up by reconstruction. During the afternoon on the day of the feast. Step 1. Wash bed sheets by hand in lukewarm water until free of blood. Dry, iron, and fold them. Step 2. Pick, then shuck or vivisect strange fruit. Step 3. Imbibe racial animus. Throughout the early evening. Step 1. Heat cauldron, occasionally stoking the flames with your lost cause. Step 2. Add strong moonshine to a mixture of blood and soil in the cauldron. Simmer. Step 3. Slowly add soul essence to concoction until it becomes reddish black, viscous. Step 4. Saute strange fruit in a separate but equal cauldron using scant blood sprinkled with brown sugar as a base until the fruit is caramelized. Simmer. Step 5. Place bed sheets on a pedestal. Run fingers through them. Sob into them. Step 6. Pour caramelized fruit and base onto the main cauldron. Simmer. At dusk, paint your face haint blue, warning spooks that they can look but not touch. Step 2. Pour steaming contents of cauldron onto the ground beneath the pedestal until sheets rise and ambulate and clamor for righteous vengeance. Step 3. Await the arrival of Yankee witchfinders and their dusky allies. Step 4. They will be hungry for conquest, glory, and your womanhood. Step 5. Serve hell hot in portions according to each Yank's desire until they are bloated, choked by the noose of indigestion. And that is how you make a disaster.
Man, this is great. This is great. This is really cool because you were somehow managing to successfully do like multiple fairly complicated and fairly difficult things at once in this piece, right? You're telling a story through the lens of a recipe, which in and of itself is not an easy thing to do, but you're not simply telling a story, but you're telling a kind of fantasy story too, because there's another version of this story where the recipe is just a simple metaphor for like, like pre-civil rights era or post-Reconstruction South resentment, and that's all that's going on here, right? But instead, this is like a literal witch's brew. Like there's an actual like fantastical and mythic and folkloric element to this at the same fucking time. And all of these things come together, I think, in a really effective fucking way, because what I love is that even like, I know like for a fact, because you're a close friend of mine, that you don't cook at all. And yet a lot of
Nope.
the like cooking terminology here is not only correct, but like really effectively played with. I love the sear until hatred makes fond line in particular because of the wordplay on fond, right? Because this is perfect. This is beautiful because technically this is correct, right? The way you create a fond is that you sear usually meat in a pan, right, with oil. And so that's literally, you can take that very literally to be the process by which like you would create a fond of hatred. But also like that sear until hatred makes fond is such a perfect like description of the way like the human heart processes resentment, right? That sense of working over this source of hatred until it becomes fond, until it becomes a positive thing, right? Until it becomes like a source of affirmation for us instead of being a negative thing. And I like that sentence is it's fucking gorgeously constructed. And there are a lot of moments like that too, where you're playing with or punning on cooking terminology, culinary terminology, right, in a way that's really effective. While the whole thing taken together is this incredibly like ominous, and also the way you're playing with history here, right? The way you're playing with the images of like the Ku Klux Klan. There's another version, once again, of this where the Klansmen in the poem are just literal Klansmen, but instead here they're actually ghosts of the South, right? That are conjured through this like witches banquet, this witches Sabbath. And that's a nice like full circling kind of that imagery, right? Where like, anyway, there's so much here. It's all very beautifully done in a very concise and carefully structured package too. So it's cool shit, man.
Thanks, man. That's what I wasn't sure about the cooking terminology. Because like you said, I don't cook, so really anything. I cook in the microwave, so that yeah, like I know about that.
No,
But,
I mean it all tracks for me, and as I said, a lot of it not only does it work on a literal level, but the like wordplay it works too, right?
cool. Thanks for letting me read.
Yeah, thank you, man. And Kat is up next.
Hey, so a couple weeks ago, I started reading this passage from my novel, and I realized it was like way too long, and in the middle of it, I kind of freaked out. So I'm gonna read the rest of it. And if you weren't here the last time, basically, it was this passage about this girl goes to this guy's house, and like the narrator goes to this guy's house, or not the narrator, but the protagonist goes to this guy's house. He's like kind of older and kind of weird, but they're like listening to this PJ Harvey record, and she is relating to the song. And this is where I'm gonna start off. I was gonna read some of that part again, but it's just gonna be way too long. So I'll just start from here. The first track faded out, and whatever murk had filled the room began to retreat as if sucked up by some kind of unseen force and held there waiting against the walls. In its absence, becoming once again aware of the details of the room, I had the sensation of stepping out of a car after an hours-long drive. That 5-minute crash course in walking you give yourself on the way to the gas station bathroom, thinking, oh, it's late afternoon now. Oh, I crossed state lines and it's warmer than I expected. You look in the smudged mirror for some kind of context and figure from your face that you're tired. Whoa, I said. Right, Jay said. I had turned to look at him only to find that he had already turned his focus to me and was awaiting my reaction. And that's just the one song. That was crazy, I said. The next song had begun to play, and I'd lost the attention span to search for more interesting words. The second song was chugging along in this low rumble, but I was still stuck in the first one. I was trying to make sense of what had happened. The album sleeve was propped up on one of the shelves, the cover in full view. A woman, PJ Harvey maybe, floating on her back in blue-gray water, dark hair trailing behind her, the ends dipping below the surface. If the album art was any indication, I'd had the intended experience. Jay was working on his drink. Real labor, it seemed, and he was absorbed, holding the styrofoam cup up to his lips and chipping away with small slurps of the remaining liquid, pausing in between and cringing. I watched, though watching him seemed voyeuristic. I felt like a gender reversal of some male-gazy movie, peering through some slit in the curtain as Jay did what he did, or what I imagined men like Jay did when they were alone, drinking, listening to PJ Harvey with a serious pout. It was the male equivalent of brushing his long flaxen hair in the mirror. You know, seated out of vanity by candlelight and sighing daintily at his reflection, unaware of the protagonist standing there titillated in the background. The protagonist feels vindicated in his inkling that this is a person worth wanting. And the audience agrees, and the person manning the camera agrees. And even if you don't agree, you come away feeling sure that this is what it means to be beautiful. Watching Jay sip his drink that night, I can't say I didn't feel it. I can't say I did, but I also can't say that I didn't. I went on this spontaneous road trip one time, said Jay out of nowhere. He belched quietly and placed his empty cup on the table. And I realized in the same moment that the second track had transitioned into the third, as if his action of putting down his cup, opening his mouth, and belching had somehow changed the entire mood of the room. I was trying to surprise this girl. She lived in Toledo, she was in college, and I wasn't really doing anything, so I threw a bunch of my shit in the car and I thought I would just show up at her house and live there. Stopped at a rest stop about an hour away to let her know what I was doing, and she broke up with me there and then. I was standing at the payphone. Fuck. Yeah, I just drove the whole way back. I didn't have the apartment anymore, so I had to move back in with my folks, tail between my legs. He laughed, picking up the cup to take another swig before realizing it was empty and setting it back down. But I listened to this album on the way back, just kept repeating it. It does something. Yeah, no, I know. I don't know what it does. I don't know if there's a way to talk about it, but yeah, I knew you'd get it. I ran a hand through my hair and shook it out to ground myself. Did you guys ever talk again? That girl? He laughed in a way that seemed like it wasn't just at himself, but also me. No, I don't think we ever really talked after that. The whole thing was stupid. I was so young, I mean, sure. We were both trying to be too much for each other. It was for 3 years. You become your own little tribe after a while, or country. There's even a language. It's too much for one person. Isn't that the point, though? I paused to collect my thoughts, but it was already too late. I was trying desperately to not sound 22 and failing at it. Finding someone? Yeah, but she was trying to move in a different direction. We were too young for it. I might still be too young for it. He laughed weakly and I followed suit. I was 23. I couldn't be a partner to anyone. I mean, you know. There it was. I was feeling something, a twinge. Something had collapsed or degraded, and suddenly I felt small and jealous. And suddenly my date of birth was tattooed in large print on my forehead. I managed a vague shrug of agreement and asked, "Where's the bathroom?" I couldn't tell Jay about the twinge because that's exactly what a naive, underdeveloped 22-year-old would do. Maybe not telling him about it, but the feeling in the first place, the taking it so personally. He gestured out of the doorway to another at the very end of the hall, looking concerned, but not overly so. I took another gulp of my drink and was halfway down the hallway by the time I swallowed it. Behind me, PJ Harvey was singing in a harsh whisper, and behind her, the bass rumbled like something hovering and preparing to touch down on the roof of Jay's building. The door separating the bathroom from the rest of the apartment was not a door, but a long curtain, which wasn't a curtain, but a long, itchy-looking blanket with a faded blue and orange Aztec-style pattern. It was heavy enough that, in a normal state, it would have felt like enough privacy, but in this particular moment, it felt like the punchline to a cruel joke being played on me by the universe. You've just shown all your cards, now go take a piss in full view of the 45-year-old dude you've just shown all your cards to. I looked in the mirror. The words 22-year-old baby were scrolling above my head in neon red lettering. My thoughts were disorganized. I can't say how I felt exactly. Betrayed, maybe, in Jay's revelation of a distinction that had always existed between us, but that I'd figured we'd silently agreed not to mention. Why did he have to draw attention to it? Why ruin a good thing? I sat on the toilet for a few extra minutes, cycling through various apps on my phone, but I started to worry that I was being suspicious, that I had been in there too long. And when I walked out, Jay would make the honest mistake of asking me if I was okay, and then I'd have to tell him. Before opening the curtain, I pushed my hair back, adjusted my clothes, all of these little inconsequential movements to look less disheveled and more in charge of myself. It's silly in retrospect, trying to describe the motivation behind it. Like Jay would notice that my shirt was tucked in and my hair was out of my face, and think, hey, that's a real adult woman, a person who has it together. But I suppose that's what I thought. When I walked out of the bathroom, the first room on the right had a light on, and Jay was standing there in front of the fridge adding ice to our drinks. Hey, I said. Hey. Jay replied into the fridge, not looking at me, pulling out the 2-liter of Coke he'd poured us before. I was just re-upping the drinks. I nodded but didn't say anything, and he turned around looking nervous. I'm assuming you want to stay? Yeah, I answered quickly, not thinking about it. There was a lot behind his question, but I didn't know the contents exactly and wasn't interested in feeling them out. It's only like 9:30, right? My throat was dry. Yeah, plenty of time. He added Coke to one of the cups and then handed it to me. I'll take you home whenever, just give me a couple hours notice so I'm not stupid. He gestured to the bottle of whiskey on the counter. I nodded. Thank you. I could tell he was trying to find my eyes, but I continued staring at the cup. His eyes were too risky, too much had already happened. Anytime, babe. That one I felt. Back on the couch, PJ Harvey had moved on from her reined-in half-whisper, her drawl now low and nasty. Jay sat down next to me, roughly the same distance away, but it seemed more deliberate this time. I could see the line drawn on the couch cushion beside me. We sipped our drinks as the song droned and settled around us. Neither of us was talking. I turned to watch him, but there was something new there, an ache, and I felt marooned. The comfort from before was soiled or missing, and I found myself sitting in a dingy living room with someone who was less a friend and more a friendly stranger, sinking quickly into a mounting edible high that made it all that much heavier and harder to parse out. Okay, he said after some time. What is it? Nothing. Tired, I responded in a tone that neither of us felt particularly inclined to believe. You sure about that? My throat was drying up again. I held up my cup and drank, placing a particular focus on the rim of the cup, something to look at. It's not that I was being evasive on purpose, but I knew that the most truthful answer wouldn't come easily or quickly, and I wasn't sure I felt safe enough, and I wasn't sure I had the patience or the language. Jay persisted. Does this have anything to do with that night at the park? What do you mean? Come on. No, I don't know what you're talking about. You asked me if I thought of you as a kid. I definitely would remember asking that. I didn't ask that. You either asked it or you mentioned it, something about how I thought of you as a kid. It was just something you said. PJ Harvey had finished singing and the song wrapped up the first side of the album, leaving Jay and I suspended in midair. And actually, I guess it couldn't have been a question because you didn't give me time to answer it. Answer it then. How much do you want me to say? I don't think of you as a kid. I didn't respond. It wasn't that I didn't believe his answer. I just couldn't decide if I was satisfied with it. You're my friend. Sometimes the younger thing comes up, but I don't know. Jay touched his chin, dug the back of his nail into the stubble under his bottom lip. I got the sense he was trying to choose his words carefully, to find the right way of saying the kind of thing to be taken in 1,000 other less delicate ways. But I don't feel weird about it. It's all good here if it's all good with you. Is that what you were looking for? Yeah, I said, and then, I don't know. Jay pressed his lips together into a flat line and turned around at me, like he was trying to turn toward me, like he was trying to stare into my face, through it rather than at it, like there was some question left hanging open, something I was hesitating to surrender. But if there was, I didn't know it, or I couldn't reach far enough to get it. It wasn't coming out tonight in his apartment in this whiskey/brownie fog. He held this stare for a few seconds, but it wasn't long before the silence began to get to him too, and he got up to flip the record. Wait, I said, I'm not really feeling like music anymore. Fair enough, babe. He stopped and turned around to look at me. Watch something? Yeah, I said. Jay sat back down on the couch next to me, reached for the laptop on the table and pulled it toward us. While it was booting up, he said, I don't have Netflix Instant on this thing yet, so, and gestured to the TV a few feet away. Oh? It took me a few seconds to realize what he was talking about. Netflix Instant is what they called the thing we now understand as just normal Netflix, back when Netflix didn't deal almost exclusively in streaming content and still mailed people DVDs. I thought briefly about making fun of him for this, of asking him whether Netflix still sent him DVDs in the mail, but I hesitated. We'd already drawn enough attention to the age difference for one night, and hopefully for more than one night. We decided on Stargate SG-1. It was one of the few pieces of media Jay and I seemed to have in common, and it seemed like the kind of content a cool adult person, to Jay, might decide to watch while stoned. There wasn't much deliberation regarding what season to watch. The mounting body load from the brownies made it difficult to make decisions, and unlikely either of us would be able to follow the plot at all anyway. Jay loaded up some random episode and we sunk into the couch, his thigh against my thigh. There was little talking. Every few minutes my hearing would slip out of phase, and I would no longer be able to parse what the characters were saying. There would only be the stagnant fuzziness of the room, and the hum of the refrigerator down the hall, and the cicadas outside, and I would think to myself that I was somehow achieving tranquility, that I was emptying my mind. Then one of the characters in Stargate SG-1 would say something, and it would be like they yanked me back to the couch with one of those vaudeville hooks. Sure, kids, serenity. If you say so. Don't quit your day job. It was one of the earlier episodes, one where Samantha Carter is captured by a member of an alien tribe who hopes to exchange her for the daughter of an enemy chief. This particular tribe mandates that women are forbidden from speaking or appearing in public under the penalty of death. The other members of SG-1 attempt to rescue Carter, but it's ultimately her tenacity that allows her to secure her freedom. I had a vague memory of watching this episode a few years ago and feeling deeply disturbed by it, but tonight I felt none of those things. I had no connection to the people moving around on the screen. They were minding their own business, and I followed suit. I always thought Carter was kind of hot, I said, just to say something. Well, not really just to say something. It was the whiskey thing again. Whether I found Samantha Carter on Stargate SG-1 especially attractive was irrelevant. Was a fact hidden even from me amidst all the obvious signalings. I know women. I know hot women. I can be bawdy about it too. Aren't I such a spitfire? Yeah? Yeah, she's like tough. She looked at me and then at the laptop. I guess. You don't agree? I don't know, not my type, I guess. No taste, I teased. I have taste, Jay said. I just don't really do the short hair thing. Then you definitely don't have taste. Jay shrugged. I would do her, I added, just to say something. Oh yeah? Jay touched the side of my foot with his own. A flash, but there were flashes everywhere now, something I pretended not to notice as I kept my eyes locked onto the screen. Yeah. Good for you. Like I said, not my type. Oh, come on, said the girl. I didn't remember how I'd gotten up there, but I was clinging now to the drop ceiling, watching the girl below me shift in her seat and swallow hard. You would still watch, she said. I would, said Jay. The girl gulped again. Her eyes hadn't moved from the screen, but it was clear the show had zero holds on her attention. Her socked foot slid up the back of Jay's ankle, and Jay breathed hard. The girl looked at him and saw his mouth was half open, saw where his eyes were. There's this trope that's common in movies, where two characters who were going to end up together from the beginning, who were destined and scripted to kiss, finally do it, and it happens like a lunge. The self-control molts away, and leaves behind 2 horny lizard brains, and they kept swinging and slopping into each other like slabs of defenseless pink meat. I want you to know that this isn't what happened between Jay and the girl in his apartment. There was no feeling of finality, no immediate release. The girl was uncertain, and the man next to her was even more so. And when they disconnected from each other's lips, they shared a look of bewilderment and horror. The girl pivoted on the couch so that she was perpendicular to the man, and she folded her legs so she was sitting on her heels. The girl touched the man's shoulder, and he kissed her again, and this time she bit his lip, and this time he placed his hand on the back of her neck, and this time it lasted longer, and when they pulled away from each other, their breaths were mangled, with the inhales emitted. The man lay back on the couch, and the girl hovered over him, and they kissed again, this time multiple times in a row, this time with her opening her mouth to let in the man's tongue, which felt foreign and strangely dry. And the girl indeed made a sound I won't repeat here, and she indeed slid her hand under the man's shirt, and she rubbed her palm on the soft, dark hair clustered above the waistband of his jeans, and noted it and lingered there. But none of it was fluid. There were none of these long, winding sentences. From the ceiling, I could see all the cracks and what looked like pure instinct, how every clumsy moment was a kind of bargaining, a way to paint over the obvious questions. They kept unfolding one after another, these tacit agreements to procrastinate, give the id 10 more seconds to fill up its pockets. And it was only when the man groaned, a deep and reckless growl that drew immediate attention to both his roughness and his age, that the girl on top of him flinched and rushed to the far end of the couch. And when they looked at each other, breasts still ragged, there was no pink meat, just some man and some girl left to answer for the preceding moment and its many debts. Should I keep going? I feel like I've been reading forever.
100% up to you.
Okay, I'll keep going. Fuck it.
I can keep listening.
When I blinked, I was no longer on the ceiling. I was sitting up against the arm of the couch with my knees folded up to my chest and my hair falling into my face. My breasts were ragged. I wanted to ask what the fuck had happened, but it seemed like an unfair question. We had both been there. We had both received the same information. Jay was a few feet away, his limbs pulled deliberately close. He was fiddling with the collar of his shirt. Sorry, he said. You don't have to say that. We caught our breaths, and then Jay said, I can take you home. Okay, I said. I rushed off to the bathroom. I cupped my hands and ran them under the faucet and drank. When I picked my head up, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The girl's shirt was untucked. Her hair was flying out in all directions, and I wasn't staring down at her from the ceiling, even though I wanted to be. When I returned to the living room, Jay was missing, and his bedroom door was closed. I gathered up my wallet and jacket and balled both up under my arm. The laptop was still on, still playing Stargate SG-1. O'Neill and Teal'c were facing off with the alien tribe, and O'Neill was trying to intimidate one of the men by showing off his firepower. He was shooting a gun at the wall, and the tribesmen were startled. Somewhere outside our field of view, Samantha Carter was trying to blend in among the other women to survive, or maybe she was just talking to one of the other tribesmen, having her kind of confrontation. Either way, the characters on the show didn't comprehend what had just happened between Jay and me in his apartment. They hadn't been paying attention to us. As I stood in front of the couch adjusting my shirt, it occurred to me that if we let the music on, maybe things would have played out a bit differently. PJ Harvey would have paid attention. She wouldn't have let Jay be so apologetic and offer to drive me home, or let me be so quick to oblige. She would have floated over and dunked our heads under the water and forced us to acknowledge what had just happened. Jay stepped out of his room wearing a hoodie and said, "Are you ready?" I nodded. The cat, Patty Smith, was napping at the top of the stairs. I followed Jay's lead and stepping over her as we both made our way out of the apartment, back to his car. The 10-minute ride back to my building was silent. I spent most of it staring out the window, staring at the other cars. I imagined, as I often did when I was sad, that the other cars were occupied by normal people who had normal relationships with each other and were making trips for normal reasons, picking their daughters up from friends' houses, running out to grab milk for tomorrow's coffee. Whenever I did look over at Jay, he turned away as if he'd been staring too. I was trying to pretend the warmth that I felt was only embarrassment, that I kept replaying the tape of us in my head out of shame only. I was telling myself, you can imagine it all you want for now, but once you leave the car, you have to forget any of this ever happened. Eventually, he pulled up in front of my building, and I didn't even let the car stop completely before opening the door and beginning to climb out. Wait, he said. I had to hold my hand in front of my face to keep my heart in my mouth. I turned back around with one leg hanging out of the car. Our eyes found each other for half a second before it became too much, and we pointed them elsewhere. Just your food, Jay said, gesturing at the styrofoam container on the floor in front of my seat. I reached down to grab it and then leaped out of the car completely, leaning on my left leg. Thanks. Yep. Thank you for the ride. Jay nodded. I shut the door and he pulled away from the curb. Standing in the elevator with my cold container of linguine in my hand, I tried to stop playing the tape, but couldn't. I was cold and drunk and stoned, and it seemed within the realm of possibility that I'd have to spend the rest of my life this way, hearing Jay say I would over and over, his thick tongue bursting through the left wall of my every thought and feeling. It was the telltale heart, pink meat under all the floorboards. When I got inside, I ripped off my jeans and ate the linguine straight from the box, pawing through my phone with my other hand, desperate for something not Jay, not tongue, not meat to occupy me or steal my attention. On Facebook, it said that Sydney and Ant were finally officially in a relationship. The congratulations that were certainly in order felt to me like the perfect diversion. I called her twice, but she didn't pick up. That is all of it.
That was fucking phenomenal. Okay. So here's the thing. There are hundreds of different ways that same encounter could have been written, right? And every single alternative one I can imagine is so much simpler and so much less sophisticated. It's so like much less psychologically complex. Because there are all these moments during this piece where you're kind of expecting it to collapse, right? Where you think this is the tone moving forward, right? And each of these moments is explored so precisely and in such depth that like the reader, in this case the listener, really gets caught up in it. Like, for example, at the beginning of this section where you're talking about the experience after hearing the PJ Harvey song, and you make this wonderful comparison to getting out of a car disoriented after a long car ride. And that is so like such an incredible way to express that sense of something transformative having happened that has dislocated you from time itself, right? And you talk about how the air doesn't feel the same and all of these things, and it's so perfect. And you start to think, oh, okay, I know where this evening is going now. And then there's that series of exchanges about age. And oh my God. So obviously I love the way that you present your narrator's state of mind in this. It's very like minute to minute. It's incredibly astute, and you express the like fleeting thoughts that often we let go of, like that disappear in retelling, but that are like fundamental to explaining why we actually felt how we felt in the moment. So I love the way that like your narrator's mind is presented, but I also love the way he's presented, because he's so carefully withheld from us in the same way that he's withheld from the narrator, but not in a way that prevents us from drawing conclusions about it. and the conclusions, oh my God. And so there's like this subtle underlying like humor to this piece, because we get a pretty clear sense for exactly the kind of guy this is and oh my God, though, the Stargate SG-1 moment killed me, because it's, first of all, it's just funny on its face. Like that. Like Netflix and chill with Stargate SG-1, right? That's hilarious on its face, but the mental calculation there and what it says about the narrator and about him is so good. It's so funny, because like she's watching it because in her mind, like Stargate SG-1 is like sophisticated adult entertainment, right? And he's watching it because he's the kind of 45-year-old man who would be watching Stargate SG-1. And the disunity between those two perceptions and what we as the reader see there, and oh my God, I'm going on too long, but it's so good. My point, though, is that this entire chapter is full of moments like that, which is really fucking hard to do. It's something that's really fucking hard that like many of my favorite authors do, that I struggle to do in my own writing, is to create that like thin veil that exists where the reader and the narrator are perceiving different things, but not in a way that makes the narrator necessarily seem foolish or absurd, and not in a way that like seems foolish or absurd from the audience's perspective. It's just like those things that subtly establish like a difference in perspective, that subtly establish this level of unreliability and uncertainty. It's just, and this anyway, this chapter, excuse me, is full of examples like that. It's great shit. It's exceptionally well written. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, and thank you everyone else for putting up with me reading for what literally felt like 45 minutes. So
No, it's a good night.
no,
It's a
I'm
good
like
night.
not used to reading prose. That's why I say that. I'm like, oh my God, like when do I fucking breathe? But yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. Tonight, it's funny how you have different vibes on different nights at MLC, I've discovered. And tonight is definitely the night to be reading longer pieces, I think. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's because John read that section from Mercy, and I don't know, like, anyway, thank you, Kat. And Colton's up next.
Hello.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing on YouTube, but today has been interesting. I worked 9 hours in the kitchen, and then I went to my parents' house. I dropped off some luggage there because they're going to Arizona, so I'll be in Arizona December 9th, like the 16th or something. And then I was driving back to my apartment where I'm at now, and I was at a light, and I saw it was either like it could have been like a firework going out, but I didn't see it or hear a pop or anything. It looked like a shooting star, and it was a very good moment. I like people were honking at me because I was just stuck in my car, just like, oh my God, did anybody else see that? And so like I don't know, I felt like it was a good sign that MLC was going to be good, and there's been a lot of good pieces tonight, but that's the mood I'm in now. So. And while Josh was reading, I went on a beer run to like get into the experience, and it made it so much better. I was just like laughing to myself, and people were like looking at me because I also smelled like fucking loud weed, so it was a good time. Anyways, this is a very kind of sad piece. There's a essay contest in Memphis where you go to the cemetery and you write about either like a person, a couple, or a group of people that are buried at the cemetery. So recently I've just been going to the cemetery, just like walking around, taking pictures. Kind of feels weird, but I wrote this first piece about that experience. I'm going to write another piece that's actually like, because it's supposed to be a historical fiction piece for the essay, and I'm bad at historical fiction. Like, it's like trying to like chip away at my prose poetry style, and it's like weird, but this is my attempt at doing that. But yeah. This first piece is called Rows of Jawbones and Worn Down Teeth. Years ago today, in the past, 7 orange cones set on top of a wet tarp for a burial ceremony. Morgan has had 4 concussions in his life, all of them before he turned 18. After we both graduated high school, Morgan and I started working in a kitchen at a local diner near Graceland. You see so many tourists and bodies coming and going. It feels nice to give them a meal after traveling to see the king of rock and roll's household tomb. All weekend long, we've been prepping for the upcoming holiday season. More tourists means more sales, which means more stress, which means more work. Moreover, Morgan's red Pontiac finally got fixed after getting T-boned by a drunk driver a few weeks ago. Well, the driver was more drunk than Morgan. Anyways, Morgan is fully recovered, 23 stitches in and out of the hospital. It's about damn time we got out to cruise. For this trip, Morgan wants to drive out to Elmwood and look around for old zinc or headstones. But I know what that really means. Morgan wants to go and find his dad's grave again. But while we look, he's going to show me his favorite graves before we get there. Morgan suffers from Korsakoff syndrome. His head is always in some kind of pain. Drinking helps, but his memory is all over the place now. I'm mad at myself because I can't remember where his dad's grave is either, but I can at least let him entertain us both with a drive through a cemetery. As we enter through an open fence, Morgan stops the car. Dude, you got to check out this guy, a real fucking gangster. He points a finger and makes me read the grave of Chief Bishop William Christian, a man born into slavery who then obtained his freedom before passing. The marker also states that William proclaimed, "Somebody is wrong about the Bible," which is a powerful statement to be at such a level inside the church and to question those clergymen above him. I mean, you can't help but wonder like who he had in mind when he said that. William's grave stands as a monument provided by the Church of the Living God, CWFF. Morgan turns to me and says, "That right there, that motherfucker needs more than just a grave. He should be in he should be in history textbooks." Morgan puts his foot on the gas and inches forward, saying, "Shit, I fucking wish I could be in a textbook." Morgan doesn't let me see him taking swigs from his pocket flask, but I can always smell the whiskey. He's been doing it since we got here. It only gets like this around the anniversary. Morgan looks at me while driving and says, "God made a promise that he would never let us be alone in this life." Been thinking about that quote a lot lately. I got that from the Bishop family, I think. Broad black granite headstone. The Pontiac slows down right next to the Apperson's headstone, decorated with different bugs and plants, hinting that the family is enjoying a new garden in the afterlife. One that is lush with blue butterflies, noisy crickets, tall lilies, and baby snapping turtles. I notice that Morgan is quiet looking at this headstone. The family graves are the hardest to look at. His mom would grow fruit and veggies for the family before his dad passed. I tell Morgan, "I wonder if heaven is like the Garden of Eden." You would think so, right? Because Adam and Eve left, but the garden never went anywhere. And to tell you the truth, I have no idea what happened to Adam and Eve. Like, did we ever figure out when they died? Morgan looks nearby at the grave of Kathy, a woman remembered fondly by her 3 daughters for being a strong woman of God. He mutters, "I feel like Kathy would know about the Garden of Eden, what happens to Adam and Eve." I take a turn driving the Pontiac, and we find a grave where Roxy sends her love to a lost man, her Speed, May 20th, 1993. Morgan really likes this headstone. The idea of love and speed. Morgan fell in love with a girl before the pandemic. The second he met her, they started spending all of their time together. They spent no time at all falling in love. They were with each other for a very long time, but one day he woke up and the world shut down and turned on its head. Morgan's lover was gone. She'd packed up her shit, stole his truck, and just went on her way. He thinks she'll come back to him one day. We're driving away from the grave. I see the name Kaiser. In front of this headstone is a no-name headstone that reads, "Someone Special." A crinkled leaf covers the grass marker of Dana L. Your family misses you. Temperature danger zone. Annual acknowledgement of a Thanksgiving brain aneurysm. Morgan. The holidays are tough, man. You really start to think about why you wake up in the morning. Think about the family that you used to get along with, the family you should call. You think about what will happen when people look at you at an open casket. At my funeral, I want to be cremated. I want the reception to be in a modern art gallery with a full American breakfast buffet and Led Zeppelin 2 playing in its entirety. Oh, and an open bar. Morgan drives up to the memorial graves. We look at the names of people who have served, but are now laid to rest. Neither Morgan nor I served in the United States military. We have older friends that have been overseas, under the water, high up in the sky, but we both went to college instead. It's not that we couldn't do it. It's just we live in the most powerful country in the world. Why would we need to serve? Joseph H. served with the Marines in France, 1901 to 1922. William M. served as a captain in the Confederacy, fighting in the Battle of Fort Donelson. H. Chalk, Mississippi, Private U.S. Army, World War I, 1900 to 1948. Brigadier General A.J. Vaughn fought in the Army of the Confederacy until the surrender. Morgan points out the last sentence on Vaughn's grave. Lost his leg on July 4th, 1864. A few steps away is Lieutenant Frank Harris, July 15th, 1887 to October 10th, 1915. I read out Harris's last words, "Help the others first." Morgan slows down and puts the car in park near old Larson's gravesite. He poses a question. I don't hear it and don't answer right away because of mouth pain, excessive clenching, gum chewing. It's been months since I've seen a doctor. Usually I have pain pills, but not today. My teachers used to talk about hearing loss and opioid addiction. Now I'm all tense and shit, looking at my crazed lines, the absurdity and whatnot. I wonder if Morgan has any more whiskey. I hate having to take care of these weak bones in my mouth. It's all the gin at home, the coffee at work, the cigarettes during each car ride. I try to refocus myself. Morgan ignores my silence and starts up the Pontiac. Going down each avenue and drive, we look at the names everywhere passing by. Goodbar, Reed, Montgomery, Quackenbush. There's the monolithic monument for the Hill family. Bigelow, Hemker, Tong, Pacello, Oates, Gulai, Cooper, Utley, Mother, Talbert, Connell, Gibson, attorney at law, buried with his wife. Wilmot, there's my last name over there. Over here is Adams. The Haynes are now with Jesus, 1964, 1999. Dublin, Shelby, Griffin, Jackson, Evander R. You are forever in our hearts. Ellie, Chu, Newdecker, Reeves, Bedford, 26-year-old Robertson, philanthropist, true friend, faithful Christian. Shotwell, Campbell, a reverend and servant of God. Wiggins, over there is friend. Around the bend is a mausoleum for the Urquhart family, born in Canada, died in Memphis. Milton Whitford's stone statue stands atop his grave, his left arm holding his cap, his right arm missing, as Morgan points out. He was born December 6th, 1862, and died March 12th, 1902. Me. If I had to die, it'd be by firing squad. All the executioners equipped with 10-gauge double-barrel hammer guns, either publicly or privately. Oh, look over there, that tall grave. That one reminds me of Bernini's Elephant and Obelisk. You ever get the feeling that identity dissipates and reorients itself around pain and solitude? Feel the thrust of the tusk, the long-held sting of a grudge. It's weird. I'm stuck in 2003 with a strange kind of longing. Graves are like mirrors in a way. Just think about it. Also, can I get a sip from your flask? There is no horror here. There is only a quiet peace, a calm atmospheric reminder. A security guard drives by the Pontiac towards us, walking around the center of the cemetery, and tells us, when the time comes, be sure to exit the grounds by driving carefully over the Morgan Bridge. On top of a hill covered by stone and grass are weathered columns. The words on them read, life, death, then life and love eternal. Before we get back in his car, I stop Morgan from falling over into the marker of Samuel Drake, 1939. This grave depicts a sailing schooner etched over a stanza from Lord Tennyson's poem Crossing the Bar, 1889. Morgan reads it out loud. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning at the bar when I put out to sea. The rays of the sun bounce around differently in a graveyard like Elmwood. The commemorative stones have a calm shine to them. White bronzers stand out like constellation stars, like lighthouses and buoys in a calm, dark sea. The sounds of crunching leaves are sharp in the air in the mid-afternoon. Morgan and I tried to avoid stepping on the leaves. It's hard to avoid them in November. The noises from the cars driving down Neptune and Walker are hushed. We notice that the serenity of existence can finally be felt within this space. As I'm army carrying Morgan back to the Pontiac, we notice this one tree in Elmwood that produces berries, and under the trees is a broken headstone. There's one name on it, Mary Eliza. The headstone needs to be picked up and reset. Morgan starts to cry as I drive us around because he's drank too much and he can't remember where his dad's headstone is located in the cemetery. He also can't remember the name of the tree. It's on the tip of his tongue. I tell him it's okay. It's about time for us to go before security gets mad. He turns to me and gives me his flask. I take a swig and accelerate. Morgan tells me that he loves me and then pukes out the passenger window. Jeez. All right. This piece was originally written into the last piece, but I took it out because I want to win a writing contest, maybe get some money. That'd be cool. But yeah, so this is like the weird parts that I sucked out of what is kind of like a normal fiction piece, but I wanted to make it cool. So this is a metamorphoses of mechanoreceptors. Teeth caressed by taste buds, eyes that see nothing, ear cartilage pierced by metal, eyes hanging out loosely, ears filled with needles, mouth full of thin nails, ears that don't hear color, eyes too big for a stomach, teeth that don't match. There's a splinter in my finger. It's made of metal. I can't get it out. You see it too, right? It's right on the tip of my finger. Here, let me try to get it using my fingernail. I just have to keep peeling back skin. It must be in there. I have to keep digging. What do you mean there's no splinter? There's a tiny metal splinter in my finger. I was opening a can of diced tomatoes. It's around here somewhere. My finger is bleeding. Now I can't see the splinter. Mouth filled with pus. Eardrum with no beat. Eyes exposed to violence. Tongue split in half. Ears that remember everything. Eyes impaled by spikes, ears that are bright pink, eyes blinded by the sun, teeth looking at their last meal. That's it.
First of all, Colton, I love the idea of like having special outtakes for Misery Loves Company, like the stuff that's too hot for conventional lit or mainstream lit. We just the the special features on a DVD or something. It's a great idea. Now I want to talk about this piece because I fucking love this piece. It is so unlike anything you've ever read here, aside from the outtake poem. And nonetheless, it's really fucking good because you perfectly capture the specific kind of existential experience that you can have wandering through a cemetery. When I lived in Manchester, there was this big old cemetery, like right in the middle of town, which by that point in time was also the ghetto. And I would walk down there all the time whenever I could, whenever I was living close, during the times when I was living close enough, just to see the headphones, just to look at the headstones, just to look at the names and the dates, and also to see like what parts of the cemetery the homeless were sleeping in. It was a really fantastic juxtaposition because these were like the rich old families who had founded the city, and who had died in the 19th century. And it was that and drug paraphernalia everywhere. Now, the reason why I went into that little tangent is I think this piece perfectly captures something about like walking through a cemetery that a lot of writing about that doesn't really. There's always this, I think there's this temptation to really focus in on one life or to make all of these different lives fit a common narrative. But instead, what you offer here are like a whole bunch of individual interpretations, like a whole bunch of individual lives that are that like open up to present these existential questions, right? That are like each and every life here is a different existential meditation that you, like as the narrator, you as the person who's like going through this, can't quite put together, can't quite know, can't quite fully experience. And yet, like, there's just enough there to tantalize, right? There's just enough of each of these lives to tantalize, but not enough so that the reader can cleanly and easily fit it together into this perfect, cute little narrative and say, oh, this is about this kind of grief, or this is about like this author obviously has this philosophy on what life means. And of course I love the ending. Of course I love the fact that you never find his grave, but there's this like moment of real intimacy, like real human intimacy that's interrupted by the vomiting. And it's just as wonderful and ambiguous as the rest of the piece. It's so unlike anything you've ever read here, and yet it's really fucking good. And I hope it wins you some moolah, my friend. I hope you win the essay competition.
I fucking hope so too, because like it's such a weird, like being in the cemetery, like walking around, like because one, the guy who was born a slave and died a free man. First thought, like when I first saw that grave, I was like, that's amazing. But also, weirdly enough, I was just like so jealous. I was like, God damn, like imagine like that's your grave. Like that's
that's the trajectory of your life. Can you like as a statement of pure meaning, can you imagine a life with a clearer, more meaningful arc than that? To like be born a slave and die a free man. I mean, we all fucking want that, right? But like our slavery is ambiguous and
I'm looking for my fucking arc, Polly. God
right.
Damn. Here I am, but I'm I saw this opportunity just on Facebook, and I'm like, okay, like let me try and do fiction. And I've got to go back and do some more editing, and because I can the submission deadline is December like 30th or 31st or whatever the fuck. So I've got time. But I appreciate your words. Excuse me, William. It's, I don't know, hard to like. Well, it's hard to write historical fiction, so it's kind of a cop-out piece. But I did just fall in love with some of these, the headstones and just the little tiny stories from fucking like 2 lines, like your family misses you. Like that, like hits so much harder being in that context than anywhere else. And there was one grave where a person's dog was in stone and was on top of the grave. And there was another grave that was like just a sphere. Like it's creative, but also you have to think about like people had to pay money for that.
Yeah.
Like it's like I don't want to look at that catalog. Like it would just make me fucking
Oh
sad.
man, I would have some really complicated feelings looking at that catalog because, like, on the one hand, as you say, like I don't want to reckon with my own mortality in that way. But on the other hand, that has to be like the most awesome catalog ever. That has to be like
dude.
the raddest thing in the world. But anyway, there are so many individual details that I like in this. There's that one section where you're going through like that really rapidly going through a series of names, and then you find your own last name. And that's so good. That's such a good moment because you have moments like that. Because like it gets more and more abstract, right? Like you're seeing all these names and they become less and less meaningful until you see the name that jerks you out of it because no name could possibly be more meaningful. And just as it's becoming as abstract and distant from you as it could possibly be, it suddenly becomes so fucking personal. And I love that. And then there's the other one that says over there is friend, right? Where like, right, because it's a last name, and it's a last name you would definitely see in a Southern cemetery. But you see that, oh my God, there was one in Manchester and it said sleeper on it. And I was like, what the fuck? I hated that.
Bro, oh my God.
But no, it's so good, like the way those like your brain is forced to reckon with those abstractions. But yeah, man, that was fucking awesome.
Dude, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I hope I'm not ending the night because I did not want to end the night with such a fucking sad piece.
You're
Like,
you're not ending the night.
God,
There are
thank
one
you,
or
God.
two more pieces after you. So I say one or two because Jan sent me a message saying that John had a piece that he was going to read for Jan. And what I don't know is whether I'm being punked here or whether we've actually got another piece. So Jan, what's going on?
I guess I'm reading more. Oh boy. I know you're all so glad. I am too. I haven't read this. So I'll just say Jan wrote this because I don't know what this is. Jan, do you want me to read this first part about the warning? I'll just read it. Contact. Guess this needs a contact warning for descriptions of child SA. All right. There exists a strong connection. There exists a strong connection between being a fan of Star Trek and pedophilia. The Toronto Police Department's sex crime unit stated that out of 100 chomos, 99 of them were Star Trek fans. What's funny is that I have a personal connection to what some people would call a statistical anomaly. But what I'd say makes perfect sense. When I was about 11 or 12 years old, I was briefly, for a few months, in what I'd call a pseudo-sexual relationship with an older man over the internet. These days, they'd call that being groomed. I have my own set of thoughts about that particular relationship, and I would call it that. A relationship. Not in the grossly sentimental and frankly wimpy way that pedophiles try to describe their contact with children, but in the sense that He was for a time a major part of my life. He sent me mirror selfies of his Star Trek uniform cosplay. I can't remember what color his uniform was or the context, but he was going to a convention and his mirror was spotted with dried toothpaste, and the lighting made his skin look gray and lined, making him look older. He knew someone who died at Benghazi. EVE Online, firearms, tour of duty in Iraq. These were his hobbies, and at the time I wanted very badly to be a man. I no longer want to be a man. I played the field. I knew a lot of them. I've spent a lot of time talking to them. I played the field. I was at the same exact time in a similar relationship with a boy who was maybe 4 or 3 years older than me. At the time, I considered him my best friend and boyfriend, emotionally delayed and lacking in judgment. He was into speculative fiction, and he was violent in his descriptions of what he'd do to me. In an edgy, trying too hard Ren and Stimpy way. He was, I would argue, my first true love and the schema for all of my future relationships. I loved him, and I still do, to an extent. I only have fond memories of him. I don't try to be controversial or say things that will upset people or try and run coverage for these flat affect mutant ogres, and I miss him. There were so many things wrong with him, and there was a lot wrong with me, and he met, maybe without trying, a lot of my needs. I was a late bloomer, and a lot of these men, not him, wanted pictures of me to more accurately jerk off. Details of my life at the time were, to them, a source of sexual excitement, that I had no friends, that I was homeschooled, that I was often home alone, that I had fairly short, greasy hair that only came down to around my chin, and that I was aware of how weak I was compared to my twin brother and probably easier to handle, more pliable anyways, emotionally neglected and alone. This line of thinking borders on the regular mutant thought line of pedophile. Running coverage, downplaying. It is what it is. I'm worse off for having known these men, but without them, I don't know who or what I'd be. At least one of them went on to hurt children physically. Far worse than what they did to me. Hardcore pornography, graphic descriptions of how these men did in fact want to use me, sometimes violently and almost always, as I was aware, even at the time, grotesquely, which is what sometimes confuses me. Years later, they were aware of how wrong and openly ugly their urges were, but they, to some extent, acted on them. I haven't been in contact with any of them for years. 2 of them are in prison on child pornography charges. Sometimes I wonder how I helped them get there. My grossly self-centered need for attention. The worst outcome here is that someone comes away thinking that I am excusing this kind of thing. This depressing and common, very common, sort of pig behavior. This isn't that, and I don't think this is a defense mechanism either. Most of these men were not loving, but their needs were readily apparent and willingly met.
John, I have to ask you, did Jan give you any indication what kind of piece he was going to make you read?
No.
Jan, how could you do that to John? No.
Just push him off that cliff. Just.
Jan says, in a sense, I'm getting John back for the Earthsea thing. So honestly, though, while you were reading this piece, John, I had a real moment of grief for the loss of Misery Tourism as a publication, because it occurred to me, because first of all, I thought, man, I wish Misery Tourism was still around so that we could publish this. And then I thought, oh my God, nobody else ever would.
You didn't say such a nice compliment for the story I read earlier.
We would not. I mean, because everyone would publish Earthsea. Like everyone wishes they published Earthsea except Misery Tourism.
Why do you
But
keep
no,
calling it Earthsea? That's not what I'm titling it.
Oh, what are you calling it, John? Jan says, because it's already been published, John.
It's called Wizard of the World.
Oh, that's a worse title somehow. But I want to honestly talk about this piece that Jan wrote, because it's whether it's a memoir piece or a piece of fiction, and I try to avoid making any drawing any conclusions about that either way. This is really good. This is really good because just as a psychological case study, right, of somebody who was groomed on the early internet, who had like weird, uncomfortable experiences on the early internet, and the lasting psychological impact of that. This is just, I think, really effective. The combination of the like frank acknowledgement that these dudes were monsters, and some of whom like went on to like physically molest children, right? Like some of whom went on to really act out their monstrous desires in the most like depraved possible way with real world consequences, paired with that weird sense of personal nostalgia for the experience. That's fucking like, there's an emotional honesty to that, and a sort of sick black humor to it that I think is really effective, and that does make me yearn for the days of misery tourism, because I don't know how many. I just imagine, I can think of all the different ways that many publications would rationalize not publishing that piece, in spite of the fact that it's really fucking good, and it's really fucking frank, and it's really open and honest and truthful, and yes, fucking funny. And yet, anyway, I feel like I'm like just like humble bragging about misery tourism, which was not my intent. My intent was to say that this is a really good fucking piece, and that it deserves to see the light somewhere.
Well, thank you, Will. I also wish that you could have published that under my name on Misery Tourism also.
I mean, talk to Jan. Maybe Jan will let you publish it under your
John?
name.
Are you saying John? Or what are you saying?
Huh?
Yo,
John, right? I wrote that.
Oh, John.
John.
Of course you wrote it. Of course. You see, luckily, I'm the guy from the film Memento, and I don't remember anything that happened more than 5 minutes ago. So I'm capable of believing that you wrote that. John, I don't remember what it was, but it was a wonderful piece of writing.
Well, you keep saying Jan when you're talking about me, so I don't know if you know my name.
Well, maybe, that's the brain damage. Maybe I forgot it.
I want to say something about that piece that was just read. The Ren and Stimpy jaunt, where it mentioned Ren and Stimpy, very, very nice.
Thank you.
Also shout out to Eve Online, which is a spreadsheet that took a lot of people's childhood. Yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, I've as from the piece, I've been there, playing Eve Online.
John, your desire to own this
Oh,
particular piece is so fascinating to me. Like, of all of the pieces to be like, no, this one's mine. All right. Anyway, Jan, John, whoever is whoever, I don't remember the piece, but it was a great piece. And whoever wrote it should be very proud. So we do have one last piece for tonight. And now Troy said he couldn't make it. He said he's not feeling well. So Troy, if you're watching this after the fact, I hope you're feeling better, man. But he did give us a video to play. Rudy, do you see it in the document? Do you think you could screen share it?
yeah, I see it. It's a Vimeo.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can screen share. I'm on my phone. Sort of. Well, one is on my phone, one is on my PC, so I'm gonna try to share it from my PC.
if you can't make it work, I can try. It's just I don't think I've ever actually screen shared during one of the readings, so
Yeah,
I'm
let me take a look here. Let's see. I just don't want it to be too loud here.
right,
I know
right.
Vimeo is a lot louder. So. All right. Incoming screen share. That's good.
Yep. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. You guys see it?
I can see it.
Roger, Roger. Hit escape to get rid of that. And okay. Let me just maximize it here. All right.
Okay, looks good.
You better come home. You know, you better hurry. I'll send for you if you promise you try to be true. Oh, make me the promise now. Your friends all ask about you. They send their pictures to your family too. I hate to tell them.
Hey bro, when you're on meth you get to looking like a hag in no time. Pretty soon you start terrorizing your family with thefts. Threatening phone calls come slicing through the wires almost every other day. Sometimes you chew your fingernails down to where they nearly bleed. When there's nothing left, you start chewing pin cases and DVD cases and cigarette cartons and toenails. One time you got pistol whipped and punched in the nose. You picked at your face and wondered why you're ugly. Sometimes you masturbate for hours, so desensitized to your own touch that you wouldn't feel a needle tunneling the canals of your urethra. Too busy jostling the shriveled thing in your fist to even notice. Watching an outsized twat flutter on the television screen like some kind of obscene butterfly fading into the light. Your bedroom smells like a mildewed shoehorn or ass. I can't really tell the difference. If I didn't love you so much, I wouldn't tell you this. But when you came back home after months of street life, the way you looked actually made my stomach feel all kinds of fucked up. I don't know if I was disgusted or relieved, but you looked like a skeleton vacuum packed in cellophane, ready to strike a pose beneath any ghetto street light. I wanted to thrust a bucket of lard at you and hand you a spoon. I wanted you to have something thick and meaty around your bones so you'd never get cold at night. It was striking the way your tiny arm shivered. I thought the streets had killed you, yet there you were, sifting through me like an apparitional thing. I thought about reaching over and searching your wrist for a pulse, anything, mud, but I pulled back. I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to see the look on your face when I told myself the news. Love, always, your baby brother. P.S. Don't tell Mom I was with you.
You better come home. You know, you better hurry. I'll send for you if you promise you try to be true. Oh, make me the promise now.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. First of all, I know Troy isn't here, but just in case he's watching this on video after the fact, I just want to read a few things that people in the chat said so that he doesn't miss out on this experience. Jan says that it's Gummo-esque. Is that how you say it? Do you say Gummo or Gummo? I think it's Gummo. Gummo-esque. I pointed out that I love the obscene butterfly moment. Mullane says this is amazing. Jan says that was great. And then Jan is shocked that it's from 2016, which I was too. I don't know. I guess they had, like, it's funny how long ago that feels. Brandon says that was awesome. And Rudy says the choice to film in the yard is so fucking good. Love the glowiness of the lighting. John Hollywood says, say something nice for me too. So we're gonna say John said how much he loved it. No, man, that was phenomenal. We need more of that. We need to step our game up collectively, guys. I love the combination of the like backyard shaky cam with the audio of with the reading of the piece. Like, I'm pretty sure that Troy has read that particular piece at Misery Loves Company before, because I remember loving it then. But I love the presentation of this. The presentation of this is so good. It has me thinking that it might actually be a cool idea to post individual readings or something, or to have like to snip out individual readings and offer them as individual videos. I think Derek actually said I should do that at one point in time. So maybe at some point in the future, if we have time and energy, we should consider doing that, because I don't know, just the presentation, the whole way it was presented, it just really magnified the intensity of the piece. Anyway, Troy, if you're watching, I hope you're feeling better at this point in time, man. And yeah, that was Misery Loves Company. This was a great fucking night, guys. This was a long one, but like, it was, some of the great ones just are long. Sometimes I don't think we've ever had one where it's like, oh no, it's 11 o'clock. I hate that this is going on. It's always like just a string of so many bangers that you don't want it to end. But anyway, thank you to everyone who read tonight. Some really phenomenal pieces, some really great readings, some really great performances. And yes, even thank you, John, for reading your totally original.
Yeah, I brought it to the table. Goddamn, I've been working on that all week.
John, I'm sorry. I apologize. You know what? I bet if you published that piece, it would be the most financially successful thing ever read at Misery.
Yeah, I mean, you could apologize with your dollars when Wizard of the World comes out next December.
Anyway, thank you, John. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to Josh. Thank you to Cletus. Thank you, Rudy, as always. Thank you to Kat, to Colton, John, and Jan, whoever wrote that piece. And thank you to Troy, wherever you are. Anyway, it's been a great night, guys. We're going to end it there. If you're watching this on YouTube, we do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and join us, as long as you don't troll. If you troll, we're going to kick you the fuck out. We tweet out the Zoom link from our Twitter account right before we begin. And our Twitter account name is @Misery Tourism, all one word. Okay, that's it. I belabored this enough, and I have to use the bathroom. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Fuck it, we're done.